Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to Healthy Habits, Eat Well webinar series taking place every Thursday from March 10th through April 28th from 12 to 12:50 p.m. We're so excited to have all of you here with us today, and we're expecting over 250 participants. I'm Julie Chabdi, Health and Wellbeing Program Manager at the USC WorkWell Center, formerly the Center for Work and Family Life. And we will be officially announcing our new name very soon, so stay tuned for that. But it is my pleasure to spend the next 50 minutes with all of you today. So just some housekeeping. As always, we always encourage you to stand if you're able to and stretch anytime during today's presentation. So feel free to get up, move around, shake it out. Your audio is muted to minimize background noise until we open it up for Q&A. But anytime during today's presentation, you can use the chat function to make comments and ask questions, and also the Q&A function. And our presenters will assist in responding. So we encourage you to be interactive and share and learn from each other. Finally, this webinar is being recorded and archived on the Healthy Eating Eat Well page that you used to register for the session today. So stemming from the success of last year's Healthy Habits webinar series, where we had over 500 for each session, we're now celebrating National Nutrition Month and collaborating with campus partners to do a spin-off called Eat Well. We all know that access and availability of healthy foods and beverages play an important role in your overall health and well-being. And the link to diet and health has been well documented in scientific literature for many decades. And there is continuously growing evidence showing that food and beverage environments conducive to healthy dietary patterns can help individuals achieve and maintain good health, reducing risk of chronic diseases throughout your life stages. So the purpose of this series is to provide you with tips, strategies, and resources to support you to improve health and quality of life through healthy eating habits. Here's a look at the 8-week nutrition education series sponsored by the WorkWell Center in partnership with registered dietitians and nutrition experts from Clinical Nutrition at Keck Medicine of USC, USC Athletics, Keck School of Medicine, USC Hospitality, the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology, USC Student Health Center, Keck Medicine, and the USC Transplant Institute, Keck Medicine of USC. Today's session is on Eat Like a Champ, how to fuel for the everyday athlete, and we hope that you'll join us for the other sessions as well. Stay till the very end, we'll be raffling off 2 prizes, and then for those of you who attend all 8 sessions, we'll have another raffle at the very end of the series. So with that, let's get started. Let's learn about how we should eat to feel like everyday athletes. So today's agenda will include the benefits of proper nutrition for those of us that may be training or maybe exercising on a daily basis, or maybe even trying to start an exercise program, recovery meal ideas, which is really important. And then we'll have time for Q&A, a preview of the next session, and then finally the raffle. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our 2 speakers for today. We have Katie Valdez, Director of Performance Nutrition, USC Athletics, and Lily Reisinger, Dietetic Intern with the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology and Keck Medicine of USC. So with that, I'll turn it over to Katie to get us started.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking to you about how to fuel like an athlete. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat while we're speaking.
And Lily, wanted to introduce Lily as well.
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm a dietetic intern and I've been working in athletics throughout this school year. And then we have a little icebreaker question to get us started. So you can pop this in the chat, but if anyone is currently training for an athletic event like a half marathon, I know the LA one was last weekend, triathlon, or if you're not, put in your favorite form of exercise.
Grand Canyon, that's a big one. Spin, hit classes.
Pilates, I love Pilates.
Ice hockey.
Karate, salsa dancing, surfing.
Feel good for a wedding. Hiking in the park.
Okay, lots of fun different ones. Great. Okay, well, let's get started.
So let's take a look at why nutrition is so important. Why do we need to eat well? So we break it down to three basic categories. Protect. We need to eat well because it enhances our immune system. It decreases our risk of injury. It supports recovery, including reduced inflammation and soreness, and it promotes healthy relationships with food. All of these things, I'm sure you'll notice that if you are not eating well and you start to get sick, and then you're like, well, you know what, I really haven't been eating. I've been eating a lot of processed food, not, fruits and vegetables have been missing from my diet, or, I'm getting injured more often. For the person who ran the LA Marathon, what did you do to reduce your inflammation afterwards or your soreness? Did you take steps to do that? Or you just said, you know what, I'm going to be sore for a couple of days. Maybe you didn't know the steps that, you could take, that nutrition could help you recover faster. And then also it promotes healthy relationships with food. I know a lot of times foods are labeled as good or bad, and especially for an athlete, probably even more so. There's a list of foods that that they should eat, and then a list of foods that they shouldn't eat, according to how well it's going to make them perform. But I think the basic thing behind food is we need it for energy. If we don't eat, we don't feel well. And I'm sure many of you have experienced that late afternoon crash, and you're like, well, gosh, why am I not feeling well? And I've experienced that too. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I haven't eaten. And as soon as I put some food into my system, I'm feeling better. So one of the main things we talk about with the athletes is it provides you the energy to support training and competing at high levels of athletics. If you're not eating, if the athletes are not eating, they cannot compete well, and you cannot train well. And then you also need to meet the demands of the sport, the season, and position where you are. Nutrition can be very, very cyclical. And for those of you that are training for specific events, that at sometimes you're eating more, sometimes you're eating less, maybe you're eating different combinations of food. And then the last benefit of proper nutrition, it builds muscles, power, speed, and strength, and you help support specific body composition goals. So we have 21 sports here at USC, 21 Division I sports, and each different sport has different body composition goals. Within each sport, each position has different body composition goals, or what they're striving to be so they can be the best that they can be at their sport. Next slide.
Okay, so this is kind of our fundamentals of sports nutrition pyramid. A lot of people, when they think about sports nutrition, kind of just go into supplements, and that's actually at the top. It's the last thing we want to think about. And the base, we think of overall calories. You want to meet, like Katie said, the energy that you need to perform your best. So that's proteins, carbs, and healthy fats. After that, once you're getting in your calories, we look at micronutrients. That's coming from fruits and vegetables for immunity, cellular function, antioxidants. Those really help with your muscle recovery. So even if you're getting, your proteins, your carbs, your fats, you want to make sure you're getting in fruits and vegetables as well, because that's really going to help optimize your recovery. And then we can look at nutrient timing. So thinking things like carbohydrates and fluids before to make sure you're hydrated and fueled, and then protein and carbohydrates after, as well as antioxidants to help you recover properly. And then lastly, on top, we have supplements. So that can be a whole range of things. For our athletes, we can only recommend certain things because of NCAA guidelines, but we look for things that are NSF certified. But some things that we do here are vitamin D, multivitamins, beet juice, which is something that we give athletes before. It helps with nitric oxide production. It's kind of like nature's pre-workout. Tart cherry juice, which helps with recovery after exercise, probiotics, and collagen.
So I know a lot of people are afraid of carbohydrates because especially if you read articles, you're on social media, carbs are bad because carbs make you fat. Carbs do not make you fat. It's how you utilize the carbs. And if you are an athlete or you're training to be an athlete, you need to consume carbs. It's the main fuel source for our brain. Okay, so if you're not consuming carbs, if you have gone on a keto diet for non-medical reasons or a low carb diet for non-medical reasons, and you're consuming very little carbs, it can definitely give you brain fog, things like that, where you're not functioning properly. 45 to 65% of your daily intake should come from carbs. Now, one of the things that Lily just spoke about was nutrient timing. Is there ways to manipulate your carb intake, and when should you be taking them? Yes, of course. You want to make sure you have enough carbs in your system prior to working out. Whereas, do you need to eat a big whopping plate of spaghetti right before you go to bed? No. So it's taking these carbs and eating them in the, appropriate places during the day. So athletes need a higher amount of carbs to meet their energy demands. So there's basically two types of carbs. And if you were to come into one of our fueling stations in the athletic department, the way we have our fuel set out for the athletes is we have pre-fuel, and then we kind of have mid-range fuel, and then we have post-fuel. So if you're about to go start a workout and you haven't eaten something and you need some food to get into your system really quickly, quick carbs, so they're digested quickly by the body, best eaten close to training. So fruit, which I know a lot of people say they don't eat fruit because it has sugar in it, or white bread, PB&J on white bread before you work out. It's a great pre-workout snack. Energy gels and honey. These are all things that are going to give you quick energy so you can go and work out. And then there's the complex ones that are slower digesting. This would be something that you'd probably eat about 3 to 4 hours before you work out. So you have that long, slow trickle of energy in your body. So it takes longer to digest. Majority of your meals should contain complex carbohydrates. And then some examples: the whole grain breads, pasta, oatmeal, sweet potatoes, brown rice, and quinoa.
Okay, so like Katie was saying, you want to pre-fuel with carbohydrates. If you're eating something 1 to 2 hours before a workout, you want to consume carbs, but you can also consume something with a little protein, but also lower in fat and fiber, because those things are slower digesting and might cause some stomach upset during your workout. So you could have toast with peanut butter and banana, hummus with carrots and pretzels, things like that. And then if you're eating really within a 1 hour or less window before a workout, you should be consuming those simple carbs. So applesauce, banana, orange, dried fruit, pretzels, Powerade, something like that, to get that quick energy into your system.
And if you notice really quickly on the carbs, they're not like, they're basic things that you find in your pantry, right? It's nothing special. You don't need to go spend the money on, specialized sports nutrition products. You have all this stuff in your pantry. You just need to utilize it effectively. Okay. So protein. Yes, protein builds muscle. You cannot build muscle, however, if you do not have enough carbs in your system. Because if you do not have enough carbs in your system, when your body goes to work out, your body will use your lean muscle mass as energy. So that's a really big thing to remember. That's why we talk about you need those base calories, and then you need carbs when you work out, because if you do not have enough base calories or carbohydrates in your system, your body will use your lean muscle mass as energy. And you don't want that, because that will defeat the purpose of you trying to build muscle. So why do we need protein? It builds and repair muscle after exercise. It's important for immune function. And then there's different foods here that are rich in protein: tuna, chicken, turkey, whey protein, soy protein, eggs, Greek yogurt, tofu, beans, edamame. Is it possible to get enough protein on a vegetarian diet? Absolutely. You just need to be a well-versed vegetarian and know where to get your protein sources in. Is there protein that's better for building muscles than others? Yes, like foods that have a high source of the amino acid leucine in it help you build more lean muscle mass. Salmon has been known to build a lot, more lean muscle mass. If we have athletes who maybe are trying to change their body composition, then we would recommend them having like a Greek yogurt at night before they go to bed, because Greek yogurt has casein in it, which is a slow release protein that helps you build muscle while you sleep.
So protein helps with recovery as well. After exercising, you want to eat a recovery snack or meal within 30 to 60 minutes with carbs and protein, because like Katie said, if you don't have enough carbs in your body and you're not repleting those glycogen stores, you're going to break down that lean muscle mass. After a workout or throughout your meals, you want to aim to eat at least 20 to 40 grams of protein. If you're eating more than that, it's not seen to be super beneficial. You kind of hit a plateau because you can only digest a certain amount of protein at one time. Eating the protein after helps to reduce muscle soreness and improves your ability to utilize body fat as fuel instead of that lean muscle mass. And these are some examples of how much of certain proteins you need to eat to get about 30 grams of protein at a meal. So again, like Katie was saying, it is very possible to get in enough protein as a vegetarian. For example, the edamame, you need to eat 1 cup for 30 grams of protein. You just need to be cognizant and aware of like what those conversions are if you're not eating animal proteins.
So fat, I've had a lot of athletes who are fat phobic, who when we've sat down and we've seen that they've been injured a lot, and when we go and really look at their diet, they've been consuming less than 1 gram of fat per kilogram in their diet, and their fat intake is so low that it's contributing to their injuries. So yes, we need fat. Fat plays a very important role in our diet. It helps protect from injury and helps lower inflammation. So there's different types of fat. There's some fats that we should choose more often, and then some fats that we just choose, as a sometimes food. Plant fats are anti-inflammatory and help promote recovery and protection. So almonds, avocado, different types of oils, peanut butter. One of the things I love to add, if I'm talking to an athlete and I want to add something, I always add avocado in the morning omelet, but then I always have to stop myself and ask them, do you like avocado? Because in my mind, I think everyone does. And sometimes they don't, but easy, good, healthy fats. And then animal fats can be inflammatory, and they might, make you feel sluggish before, during exercise. So you see the ones that are down there, bacon, highly marbled steak, higher, cuts of meat, that these are something that you'd want to eat. Sometimes you wouldn't want to eat them before a competition, and you probably wouldn't want to eat them right after, like, let's say you run a big race, because your muscles are already inflamed. And then by eating these foods after, your muscles are going to be more inflamed. And then fruits and veggies help prevent and recover. So prevention, like we talked about earlier, they can help fill in any gaps that your macronutrients, so your carbs, your proteins and fats, may not fill.
They're great sources of potassium, fiber, folate, vitamin A, vitamin C, antioxidants, and they help prevent vitamin and mineral deficiencies. If you're eating all colors of the rainbow, it's much less likely that you're going to be deficient in any vitamins or minerals. And then they also help with recovery. So increasing your antioxidant intake can decrease any exercise-induced inflammation, which is why we really stress that a recovery meal should include fruits and vegetables. We give our athletes tart cherry juice to quicken the recovery time because of its high antioxidant content. And then other foods that are high in antioxidants include leafy greens, berries, pomegranates.
So going back to kind of like one of the first things we talked about, supplements, there's an athlete who he likes to eat his fruits and vegetables in supplement form. And I tell him, it's not the same thing, because we don't know everything that's in those fruits and vegetables. And it's so important to, one of the most basic things you can do to make sure that you're, eating well is by having a colorful plate. And you have a colorful plate, you increase your antioxidant intake by having this colorful plate. So if you look here on the slide, it can tell you how all the different colors can benefit you. And it also, helps your body repair itself. Include a variety of color on your plate, increases your antioxidant and vitamin C intake, which helps repair cellular damage. If you go through, you can look, white and beige. So garlic, mushrooms, artichoke, tells you about some of the benefits. Red, tomatoes, watermelon, grapefruit. It can protect against cell damage, certain cancers. Orange and yellow, bell pepper, sweet potatoes, promotes hormone production, eye health. Green, broccoli, Brussels sprout, spinach may prevent colon cancer, wound healing, increase energy levels. And then blue and purple, blueberries, beets, eggplants. It could prevent breast cancer, inflammation, cholesterol levels. Now, every day, can we eat all of these foods? No, and that's not realistic. But if most days you have this colorful plate and you're getting in these different nutrients, then you're helping your body recover from that exercise, the stress, the exercise you're putting it under.
And then this is a question that we get often. So for our athletes, some of them should be eating during exercise, especially if they're doing a 2-3 hour practice. But for our everyday athletes, you generally don't need to eat during exercise if your activity is lasting less than an hour. But you do need to make sure that you're hydrating throughout your workout. We like to aim for about 4 ounces of water every 15 to 20 minutes of exercise, and then adding in some electrolytes if you do sweat a lot, if you're exercising outdoors, it's really hot, or if you are exercising for more than an hour. And then if you do find yourself feeling super low energy, you can have a bite of fruit, a sip of an electrolyte, like Powerade, Gatorade, or a handful of fruit snacks or energy chews. Kind of at the end of the day, do what feels best for your body. It might take some trial and error, but generally the big thing we like to stress for our everyday athletes is that hydration during exercise is going to be the biggest thing to concentrate on. You probably don't need to be consuming anything unless you're training for a big race, like a marathon, you're doing a long run, or if you're doing a swim and bike for a triathlon, something like that.
Hydration is so important and something that we stress to our athletes so much. And if you're not hydrated, it can definitely affect your performance. And we have sweaty heavy sweaters, and we have people that are athletes that don't sweat a lot. And so you get to know your body. Am I a heavy sweater? Do I not sweat a lot? Do I have those white salt rings on my exercise clothes when I'm done? depending on the sport you participate in, dehydration, can have more of an impact or less an impact. It can lead to fatigue, cramps, increased risk of muscle strains and tears, decreased speed and endurance performance, and the decreased ability to recover. The general rule of thumb, it's in half an ounce to 1 ounce of water for this is the minimum for what you weigh. So if you weighed, let's say 100 pounds, it would be a minimum of 50 ounces a day, 50 to 100 ounces. And this week has been super hot and our bodies are not used to it. So you've probably lost a lot more. Now, does it just have to be water? No, it could be sports drinks. It could be from broth that you're drinking. And I'm sure a lot of you are asking, well, does coffee count? If you're a regular coffee drinker or a regular iced tea drinker, it's not going to dehydrate you. So those could count towards, your fluid intake. Would I, say you should drink 80 ounces of coffee and 10 ounces of water? Absolutely not. But, they can all contribute. Fresh fruit. And then other hydrating fluids, so fruits and veggies, smoothies, fruit juice, electrolyte drinks. I have a handout that I give to athletes, of hydrating foods, iceberg lettuce. Everybody thinks that iceberg lettuce has no place in this world, but it's very hydrating. Canned mushrooms, there are things that you don't think of that you're like, oh, this fruit, this is really great. It can be really hydrating. And then you can see the chart here. Are you drinking enough? And we do hydration testing on our athletes. And when we test them, when you're, if their urine sample is that very like the white that's at the top of the screen, they can be something that's called hyperhydrated. And basically what that means is they flushed out all the, majority of the electrolytes in their system, and they have too much water in their system. And so we need to correct it by adding more salt into their diet. So when you go to the restroom and you just want to, do like a check, like, a on-site check, well, how hydrated, am I? If it's like just so watery, you probably need to add a little bit, more salt or something to your diet. Can you drink LaCroix? Yes. LaCroix counts.
Okay, so now we're going to give you some recovery meal ideas. We've kind of talked about the basic principles of sports nutrition. And so recovery meals are a big part of that. This doesn't have to be if you're exercising at like 4 or 5 p.m. It doesn't have to be right after, but this can be like a good option as dinner. So you want to make sure your recovery meal has carbohydrates to load your glycogen stores, protein to rebuild any damaged connective tissue, fruits and veggies to decrease soreness and give you those antioxidants, and then optionally, you can add low or non-fat dairy to help with bone strength. So we're sending out a PDF, which has some recipes and other recovery meal ideas, but here we listed a few. So you could have salmon with farro and bok choy, grilled steak with a veggie and quinoa salad, chicken with roasted sweet potatoes and broccoli. And then for our vegetarians or vegans, you could have tofu with a veggie stir fry and brown rice.
One of the big things that I'll add really quickly about the recovery meal ideas is when you're finished exercising, if you're not going to eat within that 30 to 45-minute window, you really should have something that's about 200 calories, to take in when you're done exercising, if it's going to be an hour or two before you eat. And that's where we usually recommend like a chocolate milk or a protein shake, because what happens when after we work out and then we don't eat right away, not only are we not recovering properly because we're not giving our body the fuel, but then when we go to eat, we're so hungry, we tend to overeat.
And then this concept of matching fuel to activity, we have these 3 different types of plates. You can choose based on what kind of activity you're doing for the day. Like Katie said, our eating can be cyclical and it should match the amount of activity as like a rule of thumb that you're doing for the day. So based on your exercise schedule, you can adjust your intake to match those training needs. We like to look at these 3 different plates. If you're having an easy or weight management day, half the plate should be full of veggies, a quarter protein, and a quarter carbs. If it's moderate or maintenance, it's about a third of each. And then on a hard day or weight gaining day, we really want to up that carbohydrate intake to be at least half the plate, and then a quarter veggies and a quarter protein. And then adding in more healthy fats to your meals if you are on that hard or training or weight gaining phase, to add in extra calories, but in a healthy way.
So here are some example foods and where they fall. Sometimes I know there can be confusion on, whether a food, falls into the carb category or the vegetable category, because we have some, starchy vegetables, but it just gives you a breakdown of where, those foods fall. We have our list of, of carbohydrates. So remember, corn is a starchy vegetable. And then we have our different sources of protein, and you can see at the bottom, the vegetarian or vegan sources of, of protein. And then we have a breakdown of our vegetables. And then we have a list of fats. And, it gives you a list, include at least 1 serving of healthy fat at the meal. Why do we always want to make sure we include fats? Because it promotes satiety. And, when we eat a more balanced meal, then our blood sugar is more stable and, it will reduce cravings.
So these are what we call the Trojan plates. They're pretty much what I was talking about earlier, but just more in a visual sense. And we show these to our athletes when they're like, what should I be eating? This is one of our most basic forms of nutrition education, because it really allows them to see how they should be building their plate. We have little gala in our athlete dining hall. So their boxes up there kind of look like these plates where it's half and then 2 quarters. So on an easy training or weight management day or a day when they have off, this is what their plate should look like. Again, half fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and lean protein, and then still adding in the healthy fats, but keeping it to 1 serving.
So this is the, the moderate training plate. So if you notice on these 3 plates, the thing that changes the most between the easy, moderate, and hard is the amount of grains. The more we move, the more carbohydrates our body needs. And you'll see that that's really the thing that, that changes. But you'll, for example, the training week for an athlete is different. So there may be some days, that are more skill-based, or there's some days where, there's more intensity. So an athlete, might not eat the same every day. Just depends, kind of like what Lily was saying.
So they might eat differently on different days, but if you're in different sports, you also will likely be eating different things. So for example, these are 2 meal plans. One is a football athlete, one is a track athlete. They have different training schedules, different body composition goals, which means they'll have different fueling needs and nutritional demands. So maybe just take a second to look over them quickly. We're going to do a poll, and do you think A is track and B is football, or A is football and B is track?
We're just watching the answers come in, so we'll give it a few seconds before we display the results for both of you to talk to. Answers are still coming in. This is a hard one. I had a hard time with this too. I think people are reading right now and thinking, so I still see answers coming. We'll give it a few more minutes.
The track athlete is also a guy. We wanted it to be, same gender at least, so it was a little bit more challenging.
So they're both male. Okay.
They're both male athletes.
Okay. Yes. Are these current athletes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think the poll has slowed down, so why don't we end the poll and display the results?
Okay.
Can you see the results there, Lily and Katie?
Yes, we can see
Okay.
them. Okay, so we have 67% of people saying A is track and B is football. That is correct. A is a track athlete and then B is one of our football players. So if you want to go to the next slide.
So our the track athlete on the left, he's a sprinter. And so he would be consuming fewer carbohydrates than a distance runner. And if you look Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, there's varying intensities of what his practice is and when he is practicing. This track athlete was actually eating too much protein and not enough carbs. So we had to readjust that. And another thing that this track athlete was doing was eating too many of the same things. A lot of athletes have their go-to foods, which is great. You have your safe foods, you know what helps you perform, but sometimes you need to expand that, your food bank because maybe you're missing nutrients or your diet has become too stagnant and it needs some changes. And then on the right is our football player. And this football player has afternoon lift. So this was from a winter training session. And so you see, we break it down to his breakfast, his midday snack, and then he has pre-workout and then a pre-weigh-in, post-workout. You see he's getting that recovery smoothie in, and then there's dinner, and then nighttime snack. This was a weight gainer, okay? And the big thing, if you look at the snack ideas, consistency is key for weight gain. Anything that, any goal that you want to achieve in athletics or obviously in life, it's being consistent in reaching your goal. And then one of the other things was we were working on his hydration and then sleep. Because if you're not getting enough sleep, no matter how hard you're working on the field or, how well you're eating, it's going to have an effect.
Okay, so I've seen a few questions in the chat.
Do you want me to read them to you? I've captured the ones that weren't answered and then in a Q&A as well.
Sure. I'll just start with the
Okay.
one we can see most recently. So the question is, what is your view regarding intermittent fasting, mainly skipping breakfast? Do you know athletes currently doing it? In my opinion, we don't recommend that for our athletes. We really want them fueling throughout the day. We don't want them breaking down lean muscle mass. If you're not an elite athlete, intermittent fasting can have its place, but it's definitely not something that we would recommend to our athletes. We want to make sure that they're not fasting for more than, 12 hours, because that's when they theoretically should be sleeping.
And a lot of the athletes with their busy schedule right now, they're not eating enough as it is. And that's one of the things that we really struggle with, is getting them to eat during the day and coming into practice fueled. Now, as an older athlete or a recreational athlete, I personally never recommend skipping breakfast, because I feel like any person needs breakfast to start their day out well. If, you wanted to cut your food intake off at a later time of the day and kind of fast at a later time, I think that would be, more appropriate if you're doing morning, if you're doing a morning workout.
Great. What are some best vegetable sources of protein?
Vegetable or vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
So any type of beans, black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, cannellini beans, lentils, chickpeas, tofu, tempeh, edamame. There's
nut butters,
Yeah.
eggs. The thing that you need to remember with the vegetarian sources of protein is that you're going to have to consume more because your body's going to not digest some of it. And, some of that is not going to, going to get digested.
What about protein bars? Are they recommended to eat after working out, or should someone stick with just carbs and protein from Whole Foods?
A protein bar definitely has its place. We give our athletes protein bars all the time. If that's what is going to be, your method of recovery, before you can get into a regular meal, yes. Are there some that that we like more than others that we would recommend? Yes, but I would not get in the habit of just eating bars all the time because you're definitely going to be missing out on nutrients.
And if someone has to eat bars for a quick snack, are there some that you would recommend?
Yes.
Are you able to?
Yeah, I'm a fan of different ones. I like the Perfect Bar. I like the barbells. I like RX bars. Yeah. We're both looking to the left.
We're looking at our shelf.
If there's an earthquake in here, we will be set with food. We're trying to, so yeah, there's definitely, a list of good ones out there. Typically like to stay away from the ones that have a lot of sugar alcohols in them, because anything that ends in so sorbitol, mannitol, xylitol, because that can cause stomach distress or bloating.
And what are your thoughts regarding energy drinks? Can you say a few words about that?
So there's a particular energy drink out there right now called Celsius, and a lot of athletes were drinking it, and it has a banned substance in it called guaranine. And that's a banned substance by the NCAA. So if an athlete were to drink it, they would test positive. If I were to recommend an energy drink, like if someone was using it as a pre-workout, I would recommend Red Bull. They're actually a sponsor of our professional organization. And after I did a lot more research on it, what they say is in their drink is what, it contains. And do I recommend energy drinks? No. But if, someone was just bent on taking one, that's what I would recommend.
From the earlier slide of the sports nutrition pyramid, you mentioned antioxidants. Can you give some examples of what an antioxidant is?
Yeah, so antioxidants fight free radicals in your body that cause inflammation. So antioxidants are found in fruits and vegetables. Choosing foods that are high in antioxidants, those are going to be things like berries. That's why we recommend tart cherry juice after. It's super high naturally in antioxidants. Leafy greens, pomegranates, things like that. So antioxidant sources basically are just coming from fruits and vegetables mainly.
Great. And then you mentioned too much protein. So how much is too much for, say, a teenage athlete?
So, okay. This is not just like a blanket answered question. Too much protein is when you're not consuming enough of the other nutrients, where it gets in the way of you consuming enough carbs, enough fats. So if we were to get down and do the math, okay, general public, the recommendation is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. Then it kind of moves up to 1 gram. And then for runners, it's 1.2 to 1.4. You go into strength, it's 1.4 to 1.6 to 1.7. And then if someone's trying to lose weight, it goes up. If it's a teenage male and they're trying to build muscle mass, they can only build so much muscle mass once their body has those hormones. If the teenage male athlete is not fully gone through puberty, it doesn't matter how much protein you consume, you cannot build muscle. My basic answer to that question would be, you're consuming too much protein if it's getting in the way of you consuming your other nutrients.
Great. I'm going to read this in the chat. Can vitamin supplements reduce fruit and vegetable intake for lower calories?
Can you ask the question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's how it's written exactly. So whoever made that question, if they want to clarify, I'm guessing the person's asking if they can take vitamin supplements instead of fruits and vegetables to lower their calories. That's my guess, but I could be wrong if James wants to clarify that.
Oh, I'm okay. Now I understand. So we like to take a food first approach when the vitamins and minerals are present in its natural state in whole fruits and whole vegetables. They're more bioavailable to your body. There's been lots of scientific studies that consuming the whole fruit or vegetable is more beneficial than just taking supplements alone. If you're eating mainly non-starchy vegetables, they're not going to be a huge source of calories unless you're adding tons of oils to cook them in, but you can always steam them. You do want to make sure you are consuming them with some fat because they do contain some fat-soluble vitamins. But generally, you want to be eating the actual fruits and vegetables instead of just taking supplements to reduce calories.
Great. And 2 more questions left before we end. One is, what are your thoughts on the Ultima electrolyte mix? Is that good if you know anything about it?
I've taken it before. I think it's pretty good. I don't remember the exact breakdown. It's my doctor actually recommended it to me. So that's why I originally bought it. But yeah, I would say it's pretty good. It's definitely a good option.
Great. And we have a lot of comments asking about, can someone design a meal plan for them? Can they seek nutrition guidance from your office? Maybe talk a little bit about your services to USC faculty and staff, if that's even available.
Sure, you can contact us. You can give them my email and I can reach out to them.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you, Katie and Lily, for this great information. And I think a lot of us will start thinking about how we want to tweak our diets for optimal performance when we exercise. So thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I answer just one last question?
Yes.
No, we did not discuss creatine. And I would say if it's safe for adolescents, it depends on where they are growth-wise and how old they are. And like I briefly mentioned about them and where they are like in puberty, and if it even makes a difference, would it even be smart for them to take it? That's quite a extensive conversation.
That's what I figured, but thank you for asking that, Greg. All right, our next session here is next Thursday from 12 to 12:50, sorting out popular diets and social media influences on diet culture, presented by Jenny Fruitney and Brittany Gurney. And for those eligible for the Vitality program through USC Health Plans, you'll be awarded 50 points. For more information, contact healthplans@usc.edu. And we will be sending out a PDF of today's presentation along with Katie and Lily's contact information and the guide that we shared in the chat. So with that, we have a minute left for the raffle. So we are raffling off 2 reusable water bottles with time markers. So I will stop sharing so Suzanne can spin the wheel. So we have everyone listed here who's RSVP for the session. And we're picking 2 winners and we'll contact you offline. Linda Armand Meshkin. Congratulations. And Lorenzo Casas. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for attending. See you all next week.